Hi, I'm Protocol, here to bring you another hardware tutorial. Today I'm going to be redoing the tutorial of how to fix the disk read error with your PlayStation 2 because I've gotten a multiple amount of requests that I do so. The supplies you're going to need for today are rubbing alcohol, a screwdriver, Q-tip, a knife, and your PlayStation 2. The first thing you should do is flip over your PS2 where you'll find 4 soft rubber feet and 4 plastic feet on the bottom of your PlayStation 2. These are covering up the 8 screws that keep your PS2 held together. Now after flipping your PlayStation 2 over, you're going to want to take your knife and pry off all of the rubber and plastic feet that are on the bottom of your PlayStation 2 and set them aside. Once you've removed all of the plastic and rubber feet from the bottom of the PlayStation 2, take the screwdriver and begin unscrewing all 8 or 10 of the screws from the bottom of the PlayStation 2. The number of screws that you have on the bottom of your PlayStation 2 is dependent on the model of the PlayStation 2 that you have. Once you've removed all of the screws from the bottom of the PlayStation 2, carefully flip the PlayStation 2 back over onto the front and begin removing the top of the PlayStation 2 starting from the back near the power connectors, and lift up very slowly. Lift up towards the front, kind of like a book. Be careful of the silver wire that's right here because this is essential to the eject and power button in the front of the PS2. Now that the top of the PlayStation 2 has been removed, begin removing the 4 screws on the top of the PlayStation 2 CD tray so you can get access to the lens. Now that you've removed all 4 screws from the top of the CD-ROM tray, proceed to pulling off the top of the CD-ROM tray. It will give you a little bit of pullback, but continue pulling and it will eventually come off. From here you will be able to see the lens, and this is where the rubbing alcohol and the Q-tip will come into play. What I prefer doing with the rubbing alcohol is taking the cap off and pouring a little bit of rubbing alcohol into the cap so you can get the proper amount you need for the Q-tip. Now that you have the rubbing alcohol ready in the cap or whatever you're using, take one side of the Q-tip and damp it in the rubbing alcohol. Not enough so it's dripping, but just enough so it's wet so you don't get any extra rubbing alcohol left behind in the PS2. Now that you have your Q-tip ready, start going counterclockwise around the lens, just enough so it's pushing in but not enough so it's pushing towards the bottom. You're going to want to do this for about 30 seconds. Another good thing you can do with the Q-tip is right next to the lens is the rubber CD ring that keeps the CD in place when the PlayStation 2 is on. This could have collected a lot of dust over time, so what you can do is with the wet side of the Q-tip, press firmly on this rubber ring and begin turning the rubber ring whichever way, so the Q-tip will begin taking off most of this dust and the CD could spin a lot better. Now that both of these things are done, you're going to want to go around the lens for about 30 seconds with the dry side of the Q-tip so you can be sure that no extra rubbing alcohol will be left behind. Before you close the PlayStation 2 up, it would be a good idea to clear off the dust and dirt that could be located on the fan or the heatsink of the PlayStation 2 and help your PlayStation 2 run a lot cooler. Now that you've thoroughly cleaned your PlayStation 2, take the top of the CD tray, position it correctly, and place it back on top of the PlayStation 2, and begin reapplying the screws to the top of the CD tray. Now that you've finished reapplying all 4 screws to the top of the PlayStation 2 CD tray, begin to reapplying the top of the PlayStation 2, starting from the front and moving your way towards the back. Now that you've done that, flip over your PlayStation 2 and begin to reapplying all 8 or 10 screws to the top of the PlayStation 2 and then reapplying the rubber and plastic feet. I hope this method worked for you, and in the act you ended up saving a lot of money doing so, and I hope your PlayStation 2 continues to function for a long period of time. Until next time, I'm Protocol. Thanks for watching.